Hey guys, this video will help you figure out how to name compounds in chemistry. So let's take a look. I have this graphic organizer set up for you so you can consider the formula of a compound you're looking at and then figure out, what it is so you know which rules to use for naming it. So let's take a look. A and B are simply the atoms or ions that make up the compound, and X and Y are the subscripts. So it's kind of like AXBY would be something like, let's say, H2O2, where H would be A, 2 here would be X, O would be B, and 2 would be Y, right there. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, so let's take a look. The first question you want to ask is A hydrogen? So is the first element, ion, a hydrogen? If it is, if yes, then it's an acid, and you would use the acid naming rules, which basically are, if the B ion has an ending IDE, then you will use, then the acid name is hydro, whatever root name, hydrochloric, for example. If the ending of the ion B, right, is 8, like chlorate, for example, then it's simply root, chlor, and then ic, acid. And if the ending of the B ion is ite, I-T-E, then what you're going to use is the root of the name. So for example, if we're still using that chlor, right? So chloride becomes chlorus, O-U-S. So that's that. Going back here, if the answer was no, so A is not, in fact, a hydrogen, then what you're going to do is keep asking questions. Does it have more than 2 elements? If yes, then you're dealing with an ionic compound that has polyatomic ions. Okay, so what we're talking about is, here's an example, something like, let's say, NaNO3, right? NaNO3 has 1, 2, 3 elements, right? Sodium, nitrogen, and oxygen. So NO3 is your polyatomic ion nitrate. So you'd look on your ions table and name it sodium nitrate, right? However, if there are only 2 elements, so more than 2 elements, the answer is no. And what you're dealing with is a binary compound, right? But you don't know which one yet, so you have to ask another question. Is A, so it's the first element, ion, a metal? If yes, then you're dealing with binary ionic. So all you're going to do is name the metal, right? And then, it's because the first element's the metal, so name the metal. And change the non-metal, or the second ion ending, right, to ide. Change the non-metal ending to ide. So what we're talking about is, for example, NaCl. You have sodium for the metal, and Cl is chlorine, so you change the name of chlorine to chloride, sodium chloride. Now, with both of these, with ionic with polyatomic ions and binary ionic, what you're going to have to pay attention to is whether the metal, if the first element's a metal, right, first ion's a metal, if it's one of the transition metals that needs a Roman numeral. So you're going to have to pay attention, okay? Make sure that you use Roman numerals where you need to. Make sure you use Roman numerals, right, for transition metals. and many of them need it, not all of them. Zinc and silver, for example, don't need it. All right, but coming back here, if A is not a metal, then you're dealing with a covalent compound. So what you're going to do there is you're going to use prefixes, right? 1 through 10, which are your mono, right, for one, mono, di, tri, and so on, right? Tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca, and you simply name it. So let's do an example. Let's say I have something called like this, N2O5, which would be 2 di-nitrogen, 5 penta-oxide, except you drop the A, so it'd be pentoxide, dinitrogen pentoxide. So you always name the number first with the prefix, so the subscript, di, then the name of the element, nitrogen, dinitrogen, and then the prefix again for oxygen, which is 5, so penta or pentoxide, right? And remember, ending is also ide. So there you have it. Hopefully you find that helpful. You can rewatch the video and then try naming some compounds for practice. Good luck.